All right. Hello, this is Lori and Grandpa, and we are harvesting beans. And we're just having a great time today out here in the field. And I wanted to have Grandpa explain a little bit about the harvesting process and his equipment and the land. And so we're just south of the home place near Filley, Nebraska. And here we are. So Dad.
Yeah, this is a little bit about the controls. This big pipe in the reel, it has air that comes through it, and this is the air machine over here. This it'll circle after a bit as soon as we start it, and of course the reels are run, and as the soybeans are cut, they're pushed on in. So we can explain a lot of that in just a bit when we get going. Here's a board that tells me if anything on the machine has stopped or a bearing is going out. It'll tell you what part of the machine has a problem. It'll flash red. Has a radio, and this is voltage because it has very good lights. So it has heavy duty batteries, and this is oil pressure, and this is the coolant, which tells you that the engine's running cool, and the auger and so on force swings out over here behind Lori. It doesn't show now, but maybe when we unload onto the truck, we can show that part. And down here we have the controls that start everything. This will start the machine. You'll hear it start. This will start the reels and the air pump. We're going to speed up. This button puts the head down. You can see the dust. We let the sickle down to the ground. This is what makes us go forward, and you can barely see the beans now because of the dust. The dust is one thing we have to put up with, but it's pretty much an airtight cab that's pressurized. We're on the move now. We're traveling at about 2.2 miles an hour, which is slower than normal, but with the beans being so short, they pot and burn through the ground, so we're trying to save all the beans we can, so we drive a little slower. Engine runs at 2,350 revolutions a minute. And that's basically a lot of the moving parts. The thing is, keep it on the row and make sure you get everything going into the header. And the beans will then separate. They go through a cylinder and it separates the beans from the shaft of the stalk. And the beans go in the bin, and the shaft and stalk come out through a shaft spreader and scatter out on the field, and that's what you disc back into the ground next year when you replant. That helps to keep organic material on the ground and also acts as a fertilizer. End of the road, raise the header, make a turn. Back up. Forward. Header down. Starting to cut beans. Running beans through. A little bit like the cockpit of an airplane. And Jim and Lori's daughter Adriel would probably get a kick out of this, because she knows the cockpits of airplanes way better than any of us do. It has power steering, big tires, and it's not a new machine, so we've had a couple of minor breakdowns that had to be repaired, but it's still a very good machine. It does just as good a job as a brand new one would, because we keep it in near new condition. Some breaks, we fix it. Other than that, life is good, and it's so great to have Lori here riding with me. I think another half hour or so I can go to the pickup, take a nap, and I can let her combine.
Oh boy. That might be pretty exciting. I don't know. I don't think you'd be able to sleep. You'd be watching. I would do my best. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I have been with Dad since I was a little girl, being the oldest kid. He used to take me on trips in the truck, and I just cherish all those memories, and getting to ride in the combine with him again this year is just an amazing time. I love fall anyway, but harvest is just special.
And that's what we're doing now, making memories.
Yeah, more memories.
And harvesting beans.
I don't remember this time if you said anything about the air coming through the pipes.
Yes, I think I did explain that. You can see how it's blowing the leaves there. You can kind of tell where.
Right.
Yeah, that air comes through the pipes, and you see this roller is spinning real fast. That's what pumps the air through that big center pipe, and it comes out those little down pipes to blow the heads of the soybeans right into the auger that thrashes them.
And Dad, how many years did we say that you've been farming since?
Well, I had a chance to go to college. I graduated at 17, and I turned my dad, which was Lloyd's grandpa, on my 17th, about my 17th birthday, he bought an additional farm that came for sale, and it was right close to where we lived, and close to ground we already farmed. So he talked me into not going to college and helped with the extra work of managing that extra farm ground. So I turned down some pretty nice scholarships because I was lucky enough to be a pretty good athlete, and that would have been in 1954. That's the year I graduated. So the following year I helped finance, took some of the money that I'd been putting aside when I was working with other farmers, helping them do their crops and whatever. I took money and helped buy part payment on a combine, and just kept on farming ever since. Never. They say if you don't go to college your first year, you never will. Well, that's the way it turned out for me, but it all turned out just fine. We've been able to add to our farms, and we have plenty of work, and luckily we have pretty good, adequate crops most of the year, so it's all been good.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I grew up all those years, living on the farm near Filley, and being able to do what little I could to help, but it was always a great time for me to be outdoors with Dad. I remember he had such, he's 6'7", so a big stride in his steps, and I was little, but I tried to keep up. So if I walk fast now, that's why I always tell people, that's why I'm walking fast, because I had to keep up with my dad when I was a little girl.
Yep, Lori was always at my side when she could be. And we had horses, and we had cattle, and we had lots of hogs, and there was always some exciting things to be done.
Yeah, there's always work on a farm, for sure. We had chickens and turkeys and guineas and all sorts of extra things too.
Well, we're getting close to the end of this terrace, so we'll be going down, starting on the next one in a little bit. When we talk about terraces, that's something that deters the water from rushing down hillsides and cutting ditches. You terrace the ground, and easy to farm, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, you can definitely see we're going against
With the wind.
and it's hard to see. Dad does such a great job. You've got to raise and lower all of this in front to make sure you don't dig it down into the ground when you're going over a little ditch, or just being careful if there's a rock or something, because every time you have a breakdown you got to quit for a while.
You can see on the ground it does a very, very clean job. There's hardly a bean kernel to be seen anywhere.
And that's because we're driving slow, and Dad's so precise with keeping everything cut as low to the ground as possible. Yeah, this is really good soil. It just didn't have the rains this year.
Yep, so that cut our crop down to a very poor yield, but we'll live with that, and we'll hope for a better yield next year. We had a great yield last year, so it's all good in the long run.
Yep, that's just the way Mother Nature does things. Some years are better than others. So all of this ground all the way around is what Dad has been working on, this whole half section here. So just a little bit left here. I think it was a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I was out here with you. You were plowing the terraces?
Yeah.
2 years maybe?
Yep.
So then I got to learn more about how to build up the terrace so you can see it comes up. And then on the other side, this is meant to just not like have water rushing down, like Dad was saying earlier. Helps conserve all the good soil, not have a bunch of ruts in the ground. And
basically it's a pretty smooth go.
yeah, you take care of the ground
and it'll take care of you.
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got the hedgerow trees also to help with a little windbreak. And so here we're going again.
Lori has a big black rock on her farm that we loaded in my pickup and I'll haul down to their place. She fell in love with that big black rock. She saw it in the stream bed on the south place, close to where we have a hay shed where we used to keep our cattle. So we got it out with the tractor and dug it out and hauled it to Elkhorn Highway, and that's where it is. And I'm
Yes.
sure she goes and sits on it once in a while.
I do. I see it almost every day. We got it from the creek that's just ahead up over there. This is the south place, south of the homestead place where Greg lives now. Where Greg lives is where I grew up. Yeah, I like to be out in the trees and outdoors and just enjoy the whole farming aspect of life. Always a farm girl. That's what I'll always be. When you grow up appreciating all of that, it just doesn't leave. I remember you saying a story about me riding in the truck with you.
In the pickup?
In the pickup.
Oh, yeah.
And in the truck too,
Right.
Alligator elevator.
Yep. I told her it was the Virginia elevator, and she thought I said alligator. And she wanted to know after we got there where the alligator was.
And we were going to the elevator, which is where they have the big storage for grain.
For grain, yes.
And I didn't understand, Dad. I was too little, I guess, but I was anxiously standing on the seat next to him probably and waiting to see an alligator.
At that time, you didn't have to wear seat belts, so Lori would stand next to me and put her arm around my neck, and that's where we drive down the road.
Yep, I was the oldest of the 4 kids, so I got those special times with Dad. I think, too, we had such a big windstorm in Elkhorn last week, and they've started harvesting corn, and so the corn leaves were going across the road and coming onto our acreage. And I thought about the story that you said when I was traveling with you, and I saw a corn leaf going.
Corn leaf went diagonal across the road, and Lori said, "What was that?" And I said, "That was a corn leaf." She said, "No, that looked like a worm."
Oh my gosh, how silly. What a silly little girl. I had no idea. But the corn leaves do kind of wiggle and squiggle when they're blowing in the wind.
Big worm.
A big worm. Oh my gosh, a big, big worm. Those were very special times, though. Dad taught me a lot about farming and livestock and disking. I got stuck disking one time. Dad had to come get me out.
One time Lori asked me, we had horses, and we had one horse, her name was Lady, who was a mare, and we had her right close to the barn, and Lori walked out there with me, and she said, "Dad, why does the horse have such a big long nose?" And I said, "So it doesn't have to reach down so far to eat its grass."
You were so patient in answering any questions I had, even silly ones like that. I probably wasn't very old, was I?
No, probably 2-something.
2 years old? Okay, that's an okay question then. Yeah, and even when we had hogs and clipping teeth and sorting hogs and
Lots of hogs.
Yep, lots of hogs. And then the little calves, if they weren't doing so well, bringing them in the basement.
Yep.
Trying to get them to feed with a little bottle. I liked caring for all the animals, that's for sure. Well, we're definitely making our way east, having gotten a lot of all that done. And there's the grain truck way over in the distance.
Just keep chipping away at it.
Yep. 2 miles an hour at a stretch.
Yep.
It's such a gorgeous day, though. It's like almost perfect for harvest.
Yes, it is, and it's getting real close to November. It's probably what, October? What is today?
29th.
Is it 29th?
October
already?
29th.
Oh my goodness. Time flies.
Yeah, it does. But you said hopefully one more day and you'll be done, right?
Correct.
Tomorrow, Sunday?
Get done in October.
Yeah, that'd be a good feeling. Get those beans in the bin.
You need to get back?
Nope.
We'll make another round then.
Absolutely. more time I can be out here with you, the better.
We'll be in the channel of the terrace this time.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing to see.
Now I gotta keep that right in the channel if I can.
See, the channel is the part that dips down before it rises up. And the channel is usually what they're gonna put that tiling into to keep the water from just pooling right there. And if that happens, you can't, of course, raise a crop. It'll just sit there and kill off whatever's been planted. So the idea is you put tiling through there and then the water can drain away. And so it won't ever build up and won't go over the terrace. So there's a little orange tiling notifier.
That one I have set up again.
Yep. Usually they're set up so you can see them easier. But that's exactly where that tile is laid, in that ditch. Along this drainage stretch here on the terrace on this side. And just super careful to stay right down in that row. So it kind of slants from this side down to there. Super precision, Dad.
Yep.
And around we go. The terraces have to go with the land, on the contour of the land. So
Correct.
you don't have a choice in any of that. It's the way the land is. But we were saying earlier, it's not as hilly here as it is in Elkhorn. And this is really good ground. Some of the ground around Elkhorn is just, or Kimballton more or less, is just for pasture ground. It's not its quality of dirt. And Dad was telling me earlier about the Otoe Indians having their encampment just straight that way. That way's east, actually.
Just about right over there where Lori's holding the camera. That's
Yep.
where they would, every third year, there'd be about 30 families move in there. They direct their teepees, and the gentleman that told me about all this was, I was 9 years old when he was 81. And he was here back when the Indians were still, a lot of them camping around Barnston, Blue Springs, in those areas. So he got to see them and know them firsthand. And there's a pretty good spring in that, not the main creek, but the little feeder creek that runs into it. And so that was ideal for them in the wintertime. They always had fresh water. Plus, every third year they had new willow trees that they could chop down for firewood and for their teepee poles to put up their lodging. And new grass for their horses, so they could graze all year long during the winter.
That's amazing to think about living that kind of life. Have you found some, the arrowheads, were they from here and
Yes.
a couple other places?
Yes, I have. Found quite a few things that are related to what the Indians did and what they used for their tools and their weapons to take their game.
And was the Otoe tribe, huh?
Otoes, yes.
Yep. Do you know who was the first to homestead this land?
Who was first?
Yeah, I mean this area right here.
A guy by the name of Elijah Filley started the town of Filley, and he had a farm to the south of here. So he was one of the first ones that started buying up this prairie ground. You had to buy it from the government at that time. Daniel Freeman had the first homestead over west of Beatrice, which is only about 20 miles from here. That was the first homestead in the whole nation. So a lot of this was open ground yet, in prairie, and people would graze cattle on it. But not many people owned them until you had to put a claim on it. Then you had to stake it out. You could only buy 160 acres at a time. And that's how this got settled. And then you were asked to go ahead and break some of it up and plow it and keep some for grazing, and that's how this gradually got settled.
And when did your parents buy this? I know it was in different time frames, but
I was 7 years old, so that would have
1944?
been, yeah, that would have been
1944, right?
78 years ago.
Yeah. And that's when they started farming this ground. But in the years when I was growing up, there was a lot more diversity with crops. We had the soybeans and corn, but there was wheat and milo that you had as well.
Yeah, soybeans are probably the newest crop. Milo, they tried that for a while, but we were better off raising corn than milo because of the fact that corn would yield a little more, and it would also better feed. Milo is good livestock feed, but corn's better. But the only thing was, if you got a dry year, milo would yield a pretty good crop, where sometimes corn dried out and didn't yield much. So that was part of the problem with that. Day is it?
I think it's three something yet.
Okay.
Think of that you want to share?
Oh, that's pretty much it, I guess. There's lots of things to talk about, but pretty much covers what we're doing today.
Yep, I think so. Well, thank you for you guys' time with listening to this, and hope you enjoyed it. And over and out. another video some other time. Bye.